Hi, my name's Zach Varda. This week on Over the Boards, Lantern sports reporter Wyatt Crosher joins us to talk about the Big Ten Championship.
Hi, and welcome back to Over the Boards. This week we have with us Wyatt Crosher, who is a sports reporter at the Lantern. He specifically covered the men's hockey beat last semester. Beats at the Lantern only last one semester, though, so he is now just more of a general sports reporter, but he did cover the Ohio State versus Michigan game at Nationwide that ended in overtime this past weekend. So before we get started, I do want to say we might have a slight dip in audio quality. It's spring break at Ohio State, so we're kind of all in remote locations. It's also why Dylan will not be with us this week. He's the smart one in the group. He's out enjoying the warm weather in California.
Yeah, lucky him.
Yeah. Anyways, wrapping my way back around, Wyatt, just kind of what are your general thoughts coming out of the Michigan game?
So I had, you said the first half of the season, I covered Ohio State team. So there were a lot of good moments during that first half, but they did not look like the team that they are today by any means. This is a team that drew RPI twice, who was like bottom of their conference. This is a team who struggled against Penn State multiple times, a team that tied Connecticut. Like those just the lost and ties you can't have in a season, but they've made like a complete 180, and you saw a lot of that in the Michigan game. This is a team that started off 0 for 21 on the power play, and now I think they're top 10, top 15 in the whole nation in the power play. That's just a complete turnaround. They scored 2 against Michigan, so you can see the improvements. The penalty kill is still one of the top. This is a team it's just deep. They have Tanner Lazinski's probably their main scorer, but they have Mason Yops, Matt Weiss. And while it was a very close game, it was also a Michigan team that came in winning 6 or 7 in a row. So it was a hot team, and Ohio State was able to battle with them for start to finish, and then they finished them off in overtime. So it was really great to see. And now they're looking – I mean, they've been a tournament lock for maybe a couple of weeks now, but they're looking maybe 1 seed or a low 2 seed. So it's really cool to see how much they've grown over the season from when I was covering them.
So Wyatt, going into the first half of the season, you were covering the hockey team. They faced Notre Dame in the Big Ten championship. Those first 2 games they had against them weren't their best by far. The first one was rough. The second one was a little bit closer, but Notre Dame handily beat them probably twice. And then the second series in South Bend, Notre Dame beats them the first game in a close 1, 2-1. Ohio State played great. They went 10 for 11 on the penalty kill that weekend. And then the second game, they beat Notre Dame 5-1. And since then, Notre Dame's kind of been having a slow end of the season. Had 1 win, I think, but lost most of their games. And they beat Penn State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. How do you feel about them going into this matchup?
Yeah, much the opposite that I said for Ohio State can be said about Notre Dame. And not that they've fallen off by any means, but I think this team won maybe 12 in a row at one point in the season. They just looked like they were destroying everybody in their path. And a lot of it had to do their goalie, Cale Morris, is Hobie Baker nominee for sure. He's one of the best goalies in the nation. But yeah, this Ohio State team, the first time they played them, Notre Dame just looked like the better team, just front to back. They just outplayed them. Ohio State was close in the second game, but they still ended up losing. And then when they went to South Bend, they played well in the first one, but they lost by 1, and they smacked them 5-1. So, I mean, these teams are very even in a lot of ways. They both are top 2 in the nation in penalty kill. But Notre Dame's lost 4 of their last 6 games if you count Penn State's win. So they're a team that got swept by Michigan, a team Ohio State beat 5 times. So they're definitely beatable, especially at this moment in time. And if Ohio State can pull that off, they're definitely looking at a 1 seed going into March Madness.
Wyatt, thinking back to that game when they were able to beat Notre Dame 5-1, you talked about Cale Morris being probably the best goalie in college hockey. They were able to chase Cale Morris from that game. He ended up getting pulled, and that's an accomplishment in and of itself. What did they do in that game that maybe they can do again this weekend to be able to get the puck by a goalie who seems invincible at times?
I mean, it's hard to, because they put a lot of shots on Cale Morris. I mean, they even got outshot 40-38 that game. It was kind of a combination of everything that had been working so well for them throughout the season. They worked very well in the penalty kill. They dominated front to back, and they chased him by the time it was the third period, and it was already game in hand. It's just everything that Ohio State's done to improve this year is just what they showed on this 5-1 game. They showed they can hang with these top teams. They showed that they're very strong on the penalty kill and on the power play. I think they didn't get a power play goal, but they played extremely well. They showed their depth. Matt Miller scored. None of the goals were by Jobst, Lazinski, or Matt Weiss. It just shows that the team has a lot of players who can make stuff happen. So I don't know if it was necessarily one thing that went right that was just showing a weakness in Notre Dame's armor. It was just the combination of all the things that they've done so well over the year to get to where they're at right now. So I think if they just bring all of it together once again, they can definitely show that they're the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Romeo also had 39 saves.
Right.
And they went 4 for 5 on the penalty kill that night too. So, I mean, just
right. If Cale Morris wasn't in the Big Ten, you could have a case that Sean Romeo is this is one of the best goalies in the nation, but he's just overshadowed by the greatness that Cale Morris has shown this whole year.
You talked about Ohio State doing a lot of things well to kind of take Notre Dame down in South Bend. And it's interesting to me because it doesn't really seem like they've been doing anything differently than they were in the beginning of the year. It's just that they're doing it better.
Yeah.
You know, Coach Rawlik, he's been preaching the same thing from day one. You can almost predict his press conferences before he gives them. You know what he's going to come out and say. But at some point it clicked and it all started going right. I don't know if you think there's a specific point or if just you think it's chemistry, but why did the same formula start getting such, significantly better results?
It's hard to obviously pick one point in the season where they clicked, but there was a moment. I think losing 2 to Penn State, a team that they probably should have beat at the time, may have been the time. That's when I was at the game, they just looked the most defeated. They looked like this was not looking good for them. Their season was on the line. I don't know if they were even ranked at this point, or they were in the bottom part of it. And then to come out against Minnesota and beat them twice, who were ranked 7th at the time, that started to turn the tides for them. They started to really show that this is a team that deserves like the recognition that not many people were giving them early in the season. And yeah, it's a lot of what you said. It's not that they've changed all that much. It's just that they're clicking, and especially on the power play, because they started off rough, to say the least, in the power play. It's not just that goals weren't going in. They barely could hold the possession in the offensive zone. It just did not look like the pieces were there. So to come out this second half of the season and turn it into a top 10 in the nation power play is beyond incredible. And I think that's a lot of the secret to why they've been able to put more goals in while also keeping their nation-leading penalty kill, their strong defense. So just getting the offense clicking to go with the strong defense they already had has been the major key to their success, I think.
I kind of want to follow up on that because you said that their power play started rough, which is, that's kind of put it nicely, frankly. But
yeah.
Now it's the 7th best in the nation, which is, just such a dramatic turnaround. Again, kind of like the last question, I don't know if there's a specific thing, but what do you think is the difference? Is it just being able to keep possession and keep it down inside the blue line?
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. It looks like a really well-functioning power play when you watch it now. And it's hard to just say players because Mason Jobst says, I would say when Mason Jobst started to realize that he had to be the scorer on the power play instead of the passer that he was in the past when Schilke was there and he could score all the goals. As soon as Mason Jobst realized he could take over this power play and score, he has 8 power play goals, which isn't like an insane number, but is leading the team. But it's hard to say it's just the players because against Michigan, they came out playing 3 defensemen on the power play, which is like unheard of. They didn't have Kevin Miller in the lineup, so they switched it to 3 defensemen: Matt Joyo, Gordy Meyer, and Matt Miller, and it worked. They scored twice with that lineup out there. So I think it's just the mentality and just the way the puck moves around. It stays in the zone most of the time, and it looks great when it's working. And they took advantage of a weak Michigan penalty kill, and they were able to capitalize even without their main roster out there, which was really impressive. So I think it's more the way it's working instead of just players that are picking up the pace.
It's also not to be understated that I know coming on here, we've had Sean Richard and Dylan says it quite a bit too, but throughout the season, it really seems like Rawlix got the guys to just kind of buy into the program and they all started playing more together. And Dylan would say that right now. I know it for sure because he's said it several times on this podcast already that they just start playing as a team, honestly.
Rollick loves to say 5-man offense, 5-man defense. He says it pretty much every week at this point. As long as I was there, he did. And it just sounded like a cliche when he said it, but it really starts to show when they're scoring power play goals like it's nothing now, and that they're finally coming together and making this offense how it should be. So I think as much as he just sounded like he was saying it because he didn't have a better answer, it probably meant a lot, and it probably is why they're working so well as a team now, is that mentality of working together as a whole group to score and to defend.
Big Ten championship obviously coming up this week, and that's going to be the focus of the team. But here on the podcast, we have a chance to kind of look at other things. I think it's worth noting that Big Ten honors for the season were announced, and the Buckeyes, they landed quite a few names. Yeah, they landed quite a few names on this list, so I'd love to go over them. On the first team, you have Tanner Lazinski, no surprise there. On the second team, you have Mason Jobst, Sasha Larocque, and Sean Romeo. And then getting honorable mention, you have Matthew Weiss. And you have on the all-freshman team, Tommy Napier. And you have Coach Rollick bringing home Big Ten Coach of the Year award. It's quite the haul, and probably not quite what was expected. I would like to, I don't want to go down every player individually, but the one that I would like to talk about is Sasha Larocque. That's not a name I don't think we've really talked about on this podcast yet. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on his play.
I was actually very excited to see Sasha Larocque get his name called because, as you said, he's not someone who gets the major goals, doesn't get the major accolades. He's one of the most solid defensemen that I've watched in college hockey this year. He knows where to be. He knows how to play defense. Obviously, he's one of the best defenders in the nation, and he doesn't have the points to show it. He's got 9 points on the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the team in block shots. He's just the player that runs the offense. He's an alternate captain for the team, and he shows the leadership in the way he plays. He's probably the most solid player for them on the penalty kill. He knows where to be. And yeah, he's really an excellent defenseman. And I was surprised. I was the only one where I was a little surprised that they went with him, but I was surprised in a good way because I feel like he absolutely deserves it, even with only 9 points on the year.
Tanner Lazinski, Mason Jobst speak for themselves. You just have to watch them to see their talent, look at their numbers. Sean Romeo on the second team, like you said earlier, almost any other conference, he's first team.
Yeah.
But I think what's very interesting is that then on the all-freshman team, you have Tommy Napier as the all-freshman goalie. What's it like to have that kind of depth in net? That's not something a lot of teams can, lean on, but we've had a couple of people on the podcast that have talked about it. I know Sean Richard talked about it, that when Napier is in goal, the Buckeyes don't feel like they're missing a beat. They really feel like they can count on him.
Yeah, he's only played in 6 games. He's only started in 4, but he's looked pretty much perfect in each of the games. He has a shutout on the year. I don't know if he's given up more than 2 or 3 goals at once. We haven't seen a lot of them, but you can tell that he definitely has the talent to come in when Romeo can't. And it'll be really interesting next year because Romeo's a redshirt junior to see if there's any decisions to be made if Napier if he earns more starts coming in, because Sean Romeo's been terrific all season. There's no way you could take him out because he's just been so good for the team. But Tommy Napier he's really proven himself to be a more than efficient backup with .956 save percentage, 1.33 goals against, just crazy good numbers in the limited time that we've seen from him. And yeah, like you said, they're not missing a beat in any of these games. It's not like they're taking a night off when he's coming in. They've won every game he started. So it'll be interesting next year, but he's definitely deserving of the accolade, even in a short amount of time we've seen him.
Closing the loop on the episode, kind of getting back to what we originally talked about. Before we let you go, Wyatt, what is maybe one thing or a couple of things that you think fans should watch for or zero in on this weekend when they're watching the Notre Dame Ohio State game that is going to decide which way the game goes?
Well, it's almost a wash on the penalty kill. They're 1 and 2 in the nation. But Ohio State does have the better power play. They're much higher ranked in the power play. So it'll be interesting to see if Ohio State can continue being dominant when it comes to the man advantage, even with Notre Dame's really strong penalty kill. And then goalies, once again, it should be a goaltending battle. They're the two top in the Big Ten by a pretty wide margin, I would say. And Cale Morris is one of the best you'll see. So just see how good that kid is. And another thing they're also very similar in is depth, because Notre Dame doesn't have like a high score. Their highest score is 13 goals on the year, but they're still a high-powered offense. They find Jake Evans is great, Cal Burke is great, Jordan Gross, Andrew Peak, all these guys that just come together to score. So you can be 3-4 lines deep, and they'll find a way to score. So it's not as much star power besides their goaltending. It's just a battle of who can find a hole in the goalie first, because both of them have shown how solid they are all year. And Notre Dame, there's not much of a weakness to them anywhere, but except for the fact that they're coming in a little cold, you could say. So we'll see if Ohio State can continue being hot and continue that into the tournament after this. And you'll definitely see them both again come March Madness. So yeah, I think it might be a little teaser to see what's coming up. Neither of these teams are on the bubble at all for March Madness, but whoever wins this will probably be a 1 seed, and the other might be a 2. So there's a lot on the line for them, even if they're both a lock.
Thanks for joining us this week. Be sure to check back next week and tune in this weekend as the Buckeyes take on Notre Dame for the Big Ten Championship.